Hi guys, and welcome. Today I'm going to be answering two of the most common questions I get about making acrylic skins. Now this could apply to pour painting as well, but these are the questions I specifically get about making acrylic skins. Now what is an acrylic skin? An acrylic skin is essentially just dried acrylic paint. And the question that I get the most, because people are looking for economic ways to pour paint and to make acrylic skins, is the question of whether or not you can just make acrylic skins with water. Now, people want to make these acrylic skins because they can make all kinds of crafts with them, and that includes all kinds of jewelry, which people like to sell, or embellishments for certain things that they have. It might even be to make tumblers or whatever it is. You can make these acrylic skins, and people want to know how to make them. So we're going to answer that question today on whether or not you can just use water, and we're also going to answer a second question that I get, whether you can use craft paint. For many people, craft paint is a cheaper alternative. Now, I do use craft paint quite a lot, and most pour painters do as well. So we do use craft paint. We just usually put it with some sort of flow medium, and it's not water. But I am going to be using water today with craft paint as well. So yes, the question, can you use craft paint, is absolutely yes, you can. With most pour mediums, craft paint works very well. It's just often thinner, and you need to use a lot less of whatever pouring medium that you're using. But we are going to use water today, and we're going to see how it turns out if you just take the economical choice of just using water. Let's get started. Okay, so I've got several different kinds of paint in here, and this includes some craft paint. I have some Master's Touch Violet. I have some Anita's craft paint, which is actually really nice craft paint. You don't hear a lot about Anita's. You often hear about folk art or deco art. I do use deco art all of the time. The Extreme Sheen Gold, 24 karat gold, use it all the time. I also use Folk Arts Bronze here, metallic bronze, quite a lot. They have copper, all the metallics. It's just a cheaper alternative, and they work fine. And you also see me often use these color shift paints from Folk Art. Now these are more the premium paints. You're not going to necessarily save money by using these kinds of paints by Folk Art. They do have cheaper, a couple of dollars. The ever-rising prices, there are cheaper folk art paints, and you can definitely use those as well. You're just going to use a lot less medium. So I've already mixed a couple. This one is the Anita's, and you can see it's fairly watery. You have to be very careful not to add too much water, and I would dare say this is probably too much water with this. So that's the pitfall of just using water. The other thing is your paint's not going to go as far. So is it really more economical? Maybe. Floetrol has definitely gotten a lot more expensive, and glue and water is still out there. You can definitely use that as well. I'm probably going to be doing a lot more with glue and water as prices continue to rise. But with the water, you just have to be careful for it not to be too thin, because often with water, you can get very brittle skins. So the drawback is you're going to have to use more paint. I'm going to start by showing you how I mix the tube paint with water. So this is Master's Touch Viridian, one of my favorite colors, and this is my water. Now, this is not regular water. If you're going to be keeping your paint for any period of time, I do recommend that you use distilled water. It doesn't have any of this stuff in it. It will last longer. I have used, when I first started pour painting, I used regular water and kept my paints in the bottle. And what I found is a couple months later, when you open up that bottle, yeah, the paint's still good, but it smells kind of funky. So if you don't want anything growing in your paint, I do suggest you use distilled water if you're going to be keeping your paints. If you're just going to be using them up and being done with them, I'm not sure that it matters so much, but I am going to be using distilled water in my bottle today. So what I'm going to do is just very simply open up my paint, pour some in my cup. I'm using these cheap disposable paper cups, biodegradable ones. And you can definitely use those. They're just bathroom cups. Or you can use reusable ones and rinse them out. So I'm just going to take my paint. Now really, this is usually about how much paint that I would use to do quite a bit of paint if I was using Floetrol. This does not amount to much when you're using water, and you have to use very little water to get the same consistency that you use with something like Floetrol or professional pour medium. Now that's the problem with this. Many people think this is more economic. The problem is it may not be, because you use so much more paint when you're just using water to get the exact same consistency. Okay, so this is fairly thick. So if you were needing thick pour paint, you'd want to stop here. I can go thinner. But you can see I don't have a lot of paint. This isn't going to make a very big skin. I'm going to have to use a lot more paint. And that's about as thick as you're wanting that. Now, on the other hand, if I were using a pour medium, I would already have my cup up to here with this amount of paint. So I'd have a lot more paint for my skin. So is it really economical? Maybe not. To mix it metallic as well, this is Decoart's Peacock Pearl, pretty common to find in the pour painting world. And I'm going to go ahead and put some in there. Now, I should have shaken that because the metallics will often have this viscous liquid on top. It's what makes it flow out of the bottle, actually. So there's actually a type of medium in there, if you think about it that way, that it suspends the metallic particles in it. So if you see it, you can see how much thinner it is. It's already literally like a really thick pour paint. And I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of water, but not much. Just my stir stick. Stir it around to thin it out. So there's really about the thick consistency. You can take it a little bit thinner. And actually, that is a really nice consistency. To be honest, if you're making a skin, it needs to be a little bit on the thick side. You definitely don't want super thin paint. So this actually looks pretty good. This is what I would pour paint with. And just a little bit more. Okay, that looks pretty good. That actually looks like pour paint. And you saw I put very little water. So it takes very little water if you're talking about your craft paints. Your metallics or even your regular craft paint are going to take half the water that a tube of paint is going to take. So that being said, this one is really thin. I'm going to add a little bit more. This one is Anita's. And this one is Amethyst. It's very pretty, but you can see how thin it is. So I've added a lot of water. And now I've got a lot of Anita's because I had to keep adding paint to thicken it back up. And here's another paint that I've done. As you can see here, it's a little on the thin side too. This is Violet. Usually you're having to add water. I'm having to add paint. Okay. That one's really bubbly. And then this one is my Decoart, which is wanting to separate back out. This is Decoart 24 karat gold. It's just a little tiny bit of it. Okay, so those are my paints. Those are the ones I'm going to use to make my skin. Just move these out of the way. Now this is a little bubbly. It's not optimum. It's better to always mix your paints a day before and let the bubbles kind of settle out. Let me find my tray. So here is my tray. It just has a white silicone mat over the top. You can see I don't have a huge space to make a skin, but I do have a gigantic tray that I make very large skins with. I use a tray because it's easier to lift it off. It keeps my workspace clean, and it allows me to move and tilt my painting. Since I don't have a hard surface, I have silicone. It gives me that hard surface. It also contains my paint, and it doesn't run all over the place. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to start pouring paint. I'm not going to be doing anything too special with this. I have multiple videos on how to make acrylic skins, whether they're bloom skins, stained glass skins, regular Floetrol skins, skins for jewelry, blinged out skins. You can check those out on my channel. So if you're interested in making a specific type of skin, then check those out. This is just the experiment with water to show you what kind of skin you get when you just use water as your pour medium. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the one I have the most of, which is this very pretty amethyst color. Okay, this isn't too thin. This is actually pretty much spot on. So I'm going to make my base this amethyst. I'll leave a little bit just in case. I'm going to go ahead and see, I can tilt that. That's the great thing. And this looks about right. The consistency is right. And I'm just going to move my base around. Okay, there we go. Also, it's good to keep these little tweezers around. If you see anything that shouldn't be in your paint, grab it out. So let's go ahead and add a little bit of my purple. Okay, I'm just going to grab a skewer, and here you can make any design that you want. I'm just going to freestyle this as well. This is just a little silicone pointer. I think they call them silicone brushes. And I am just going to do this. Kind of looks like filigree if you do it like this. And I might just leave this with the purple because I have regular paint, I have craft paint, I have metallics, and I have enough paint. So I don't think I'm going to add any blue. You're already seeing this shrink away from the sides. It does that a lot worse with water than it does when you have acrylic pour medium. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to give this a torch and pop some of the bubbles from my paint. With a silicone mat, it's very easy to do this, just like you would if you're pour painting. So this is going to dry fairly quickly, and when it's done, I am going to let you see what it looks like and what the difference is between a skin with Floetrol or another pouring medium and without. Okay, here it is. Here is our water skin. And I'll go ahead and remove the tray, and you can see it. This is actually 48 hours later versus 24. It actually took a long time to dry. You can see where I put my finger in it. And you can see how the paint kind of pulled away from the edges. But let's go ahead and remove it so we can see how the skin turned out. Now remember, this has both craft paint and regular paint in it, regular acrylic paint. And I'm going to go ahead and remove it from my silicone mat. Let's see how easy it is to remove. Get that up on the end. Okay, let's just go for it. I'm just going to leave a little bit on the edge. That's okay. There we go. Okay. Here we go, minus the little edge, which I'm just going to pull off. And there's the skin. So, can you make a skin with water? Yes, you can. I'm going to flip it on the other side so you can see it. This one's not very pretty on the other side. You can just see the marks where I hit the skewer. But this side's pretty nice. It's going to be fairly sticky, and it doesn't really feel sticky, but if you put this on another skin, you are definitely going to get it stuck, or any kind of hard surface or painted surface. This will stick to it, so we'll just keep it on the silicone for now and then transfer it to be stored on freezer paper. Okay, now I do want to say I did go ahead and do one with glue and water because I had all of that blue paint that I had mixed and I added glue to it. I just used regular clear Elmer's Skull glue. I usually use Glue All, which is recommended, but which is a PVA glue. I did just use clear Elmer's because I had some hanging around. I added it to my cups, and let's see a skin made from glue and water and compare it. Okay, so here is my glue and water skin, and I'm just going to pull that right up. See how much easier that came up? It didn't have all of that shrinkage around the edges that made it hard to come up. This is the glue and water skin. Very similar on the back, but it seems to be a little bit heftier skin. And obviously using the glue makes your paint go further. Now this is a Floetrol based skin, very similar over here. It's not very pretty, but this is a Floetrol based skin done with the copper, and it is really super strong, very plasticky. Now these do get brittle over time as well. But the question is, can you just use water to make an acrylic skin? That answer is yes, you can. They're a little bit thinner and not as elastic, a little harder to remove, but in a pinch, you can just use water. Once you have this, you can make jewelry and all kinds of things you can find on my channel. Please check out my acrylic skins playlist on how to make different types of skins and how to make all kinds of craft and jewelry projects with acrylic skins. Thanks for watching. Bye now.